Welcome to the Sportive Survival Guide Part 2. In this edition we're going to be looking at bike packing and bike setup. We're going to give you some hints and tips on making sure that the bike actually makes it out to the event, and also making sure that you can enjoy the day because the bike is set up and you've got all the equipment that you need on board for a day's riding. It's very important to make sure that your bike is actually set up correctly for any long distance event. That includes frame size, saddle height and position, stem length and also handlebar height. If you do actually need to visit a local retailer, then it's well worth taking that little bit of extra time to get them to check your position over, so that ultimately you're going to be able to spend a full day in the saddle and you're going to be as comfortable as possible. If you're comfortable, you're going to be efficient, you're going to enjoy the riding, you're probably going to perform a lot better. Now, before every ride, I always got into the habit early on just to check my brakes, check the tyres, check if you've got any little nicks in the tyres or stones in there. Put new inner tubes in just to make sure that your equipment's in tip-top condition, and give my bike a full service. So if I need to change inner cables, I'll do that. It's all relatively small cost in the grand scheme of things when you're flying out to an event and you're spending the money on the entries and the travel and the accommodation and everything which goes with it. I'll do that at least a week in advance so that I can bed everything in, and if I do experience any problems, I've still got time to actually rectify them and make sure the bike's in 100% working order before the event. Really, there's nothing worse than finding out the night before or a couple of days before that you need to change something and not actually having enough time and then being a little bit more stressed out about it. It's important to be as self-sufficient as possible as well. And when you look at spares and what to take on the ride, I always pack a saddle bag with 2 new inner tubes, tyre lever, chain splitter, 2 CO2 canisters, because if you do puncture it's a lot quicker. Sometimes it's not the end of the world. If you take a mini pump, that's fine. If you're looking for a particular time in an event, or you want to try and go for a gold award, then if you do puncture you can be back on the road that little bit quicker with a CO2 canister. And a little bit of money, sort of 15 or 20 euros, just in case you really do need to dive into a cafe, buy a bottle of water, something to eat if you're feeling hungry. Another important thing which I normally take and put in my saddle bag is some form of ID or a contact person and contact number should something happen. And that's really important, you know. It just sits in the saddle bag, it doesn't do any harm, it doesn't take up any extra room or weight, but it can be very, very valuable if your day doesn't end quite the way you wanted it to. I carry 2 750ml water bottles as well, just to make sure that you've always got fluid with you. All the Sportives have regular feed stations, but really it's important to make sure that you are self-sufficient and you do have enough fluid with you from one feed station to the next. There's nothing worse than actually running out of drink halfway and suddenly thinking, well, I'm really thirsty now, and not having anything for quite a few miles. So if you're at that point, then things can start to go bad quite quickly. Another little tip which I've found has been quite useful to me is to actually make some mental notes and then put that down on a little sheet of paper, which I normally stick on the stem of my bike. And I really just go through the course and I highlight certain sections where the feed stations are. And I also put in the hardest parts of the course, so I put in all the climbs, how many kilometers in the event they are, how long the climb is and how high in altitude the climb is. You know, I do that pretty much for every Sportive which I've done. Found it really, really handy. Take about 15 or 20 minutes just to go through the parcours and make those notes. So hopefully you can use that to your advantage as well. Now, if you do have a spare pocket, no doubt they're going to be quite filled up with energy gels and bars. But take a camera. You know, it's going to be a lifetime achievement and a real momentous occasion. Probably going to be covering a lot of the famous roads in the Tour de France or Vuelta or Giro d'Italia. So make the most of it, and when you get to a nice point, pull up, take a few pictures, and let those memories continue for long after the ride. The next thing to look at really is the gearing on the bike. Now, you may actually have a standard gearing setup of 3953 at the front, which could be fine for your regular day-to-day riding, but as soon as you hit the mountains, this is something which you should really pay a little bit more attention to in advance. Make sure that you've got a low enough gear to actually get over these mountains. In some instances you could have 3, 4, 5, 6 mountain passes, and really being able to keep the legs spinning throughout and keep a high cadence on these mountains, it's going to keep the legs a lot more supple towards the end of the event. It's going to mean you're a lot more efficient. You've actually got more to give come the final mountain pass. So I generally run a 3650 on the very hilly courses with a 1225 at the back, but it's quite easy to actually drop that lower by either fitting a 34 small chainring at the front, or even going for a triple chain set to really bring a nice low gear down. Or at the rear of the bike you could go from the setup which I adopt, the 1225. You could change that to a 27 or even a 29 tooth sprocket at the back. And this is all really going to help you get over those mountains, enjoy the day's riding, and make sure that every mountain is not just a grind, and you can go up there with a relative smile on your face, actually enjoy, take a look over your shoulder, enjoy the beautiful scenery, get over those mountains and get to the finish in best possible shape.